Hi, good morning. Just wanted to have a quick chat about Sola Scriptura. As a former Protestant who became Eastern Orthodox later in life, I wrestled with the question of Sola Scriptura for many years, and I know how difficult it can be to really sort out. And I think that you got to cut through right to the heart of the issue to understand the difficulties that Sola Scriptura has and why it could ever really function the way that Protestants want it to function. So let's talk about the actual problem at hand, and that is the question of authority and what does it mean in terms of the Bible. So authority can have an active or a passive sense. And active authority is something that requires agency. It's something only a person or an organization can have. A passive authority is something that a document can have. So, what is the difference between active and passive authority? Let me give you an example that I think will help make it clear. And so, let's look at the American legal or governmental system. There is a document which has a unique position, a preeminent position, and that is the Constitution. There is nothing else quite like it. There's nothing that stands above it. And the Constitution lays out a lot of the ground rules. But if I or someone else or an organization is doing something which is not in accord with the Constitution, or rather there's a question about whether that person is doing something in accord, or what does it mean to act in accordance with the Constitution itself cannot answer that question. The Constitution has no agency, so therefore it has no active authority. The Constitution will not step out of its case and come over to me and say, you're misreading me, or that's not what I meant. So the Constitution has a passive authority, but not an active authority. In the American legal system, the Supreme Court is the organization that occupies that position of active authority. There's a question about what it means to act in accordance with the Constitution. It's the Supreme Court that makes that determination. The Supreme Court has active authority. It can act, it can determine what's right, what's wrong, what's good application, and what's bad. Now, with that understanding of active versus passive authority, take a look back at Sola Scriptura. That's the scriptures. What kind of authority does it have? As a document or as a book, it has a passive authority. It is preeminent and unique, but it cannot act. What has active authority in the life of the Christian? It's the church. Christ came to found a church, and he gave it the keys. He gave it promises of both authority and protection. The church is what has the active authority to differentiate between good actions and right actions. What's proper, what's right, what's wrong. You can see this in Acts 15. So I'd say ponder this a little bit. Consider the different types of authority and what Scripture has, and pretty soon you'll see why passive authority, in the same sense as the Constitution, is just not sufficient.